My beloved brothers and sisters, there are times when life tightens around you, when you look at your bills, your rent, your responsibilities, and you wonder, how am I going to make it? You apply for jobs, no response. You give your best effort, no breakthrough. You do everything right, but the money just doesn't stretch. And in those moments, the heart begins to panic. The mind begins to overthink. And Shaitan begins to whisper, no one is helping you. You're all alone. But let me tell you something that brings peace to the heart. Provision does not come from people, it comes from Allah. My dear brothers and sisters, you see, people are only the means. They are the delivery system, not the source. Yes, you may earn through a job, you may be paid by a client, you may receive help from a friend or family member, but the truth is those people are not your providers. They are simply the doors through which your provision is delivered. The one who opens those doors is Allah. And if He wills, He can open another door in a second from where you least expect it. Your job is not the source. Your salary is not the source. Your business, your education, your networking, all of these are efforts and they are important. But the one who places barakah in those efforts or removes it is Ar-Razzaq. The one who provides with wisdom, justice, and mercy. And the most beautiful part, His provision is not dependent on the economy. It's not limited by inflation. It's not affected by recessions or market crashes or industry layoffs. Allah is independent of all of that. Let's pause and reflect when you were a baby, completely helpless, unable to speak, walk, or earn anything. Who provided for you? You didn't fill out applications. You didn't attend interviews. You didn't know how to budget or manage money. But somehow, you had food, warmth, protection, and love. Your parents were just the carriers of that provision. But the source always was Allah. He cared for you when you were too young to ask for help. He sustained you before you knew His name. He looked after your needs when you didn't even understand what needs were. So now that you are older, now that you are aware, now that you are working and striving and worrying, do you think He will stop caring for you now? Why would Ar-Razzaq provide for you in your most helpless state and then leave you now that you're trying your best? Why would He abandon you after carrying you through so many storms before? Why would He look at your effort, your prayers, your pain and turn away? He wouldn't. And He doesn't. He hasn't changed. He hasn't run out. And He hasn't forgotten you. He is not like human beings who grow tired of giving, who turn away when you ask too much, who make you feel guilty for needing help. Allah gives and He loves to give. He gives to those who worship Him and He gives to those who don't. He provides for the believer and the disbeliever. He feeds the bird in the sky, the fish in the sea, and the ant beneath the ground. So do you think He will forget about you, the one who prays to Him in the middle of the night? The one who cries out to Him in sujood? The one who whispers His name while fighting back tears? Never. Allah does not abandon His servants. But sometimes, and this is important, sometimes He delays the provision to teach you trust, to remind you that He is not a transaction. He is not a vending machine where you put in a dua and expect instant results. No, He is your Lord. And He knows not just what to give, but also when to give it and how to give it in a way that won't harm your heart or your akhirah. Because sometimes we want something desperately, a raise, a job, a loan, a sale, a marriage, and we think, if I just had this, everything would be better. But Allah knows that if He gave it to you right now, it might distract you, break you, or pull you away from Him. So He withholds it not to punish you, but to protect you. And when the time is right, He opens the doors so effortlessly, sometimes in ways you never imagined, and your heart will whisper, now I understand. This is why He made me wait. So trust in Him. Don't tie your heart to the means. Tie it to the one who controls the means. Don't panic when one door closes, because Ar-Razzaq doesn't need doors. He only says be, and it is. My dear brothers and sisters, It's easy to become consumed by worry. We worry about our future. We worry about how we'll pay the bills next month. We worry about whether our efforts are enough, whether our dreams will come true, whether we're falling behind. But let me remind you of a truth that is so simple and yet so powerful. Your risk, your provision was already written for you long before you ever opened your eyes to this world, before your name was ever known to people, before you took your first breath, before you ever walked or worked or prayed. Your share of sustenance was decreed by the one who created you. When you were still in the womb of your mother, before your heart started beating, the angels were already recording it. How long you would live, what you would earn, and what you would receive in this life. Subhanallah, before you ever made a decision, before you could make a single move, Allah had already planned everything you would need and everything you would have. And now, you're living within that plan. You're not late. You're not missing what was meant for you. You're not behind. Sometimes we panic because we think we're not achieving what we should. We compare ourselves to others and wonder why they seem more successful, more stable, more blessed. But what we forget is that Allah doesn't distribute provision based on effort alone. He distributes it based on His wisdom. That doesn't mean we don't strive. We absolutely should. Islam teaches us to work hard, to seek halal income, to pursue excellence in whatever we do. But alongside that striving, we must carry a deep, unshakable belief. Whatever is written for me will reach me. And whatever is not written for me will never reach me, even if it's right in front of me. You may have experienced this in your own life already. Have you ever had an opportunity slip right through your fingers despite being qualified, prepared, and hopeful, and later you realized it wasn't right for you? That something better was waiting just around the corner? That's Allah's way of protecting you from what your heart wanted, but your soul didn't need. And the opposite is true too. Sometimes, out of nowhere, doors open that you never even knocked on. You receive help from places you didn't expect. Someone remembers you for a job, a contract, or a kind gesture, and it changes your entire situation. That wasn't your effort alone. That was the qadr of Allah unfolding at exactly the right time. So instead of waking up every day with anxiety in your chest, try waking up with trust in your heart. Tell yourself, what is written for me is already mine. I just need to walk toward it with faith, effort, and patience. And here's something beautiful. What is written for you won't go to anyone else. No one can take your risk. No one can block it. No one can compete with what Allah has custom written for your journey. So instead of rushing the plan, surrender to it. Instead of doubting your path, walk it with trust. And instead of obsessing over what you lack, thank Allah for what you've already received, because it was written just for you. This mindset brings peace. It brings focus. It brings contentment. It reminds you that your value is not in how much you earn or how many digits are in your account, but in how much trust you place in the one who never stops providing. If your provision was written before you were born, then every day you are alive is simply the unfolding of that plan. You're not out here creating your sustenance from nothing. You're simply collecting what Allah has already decreed for you. And what a peaceful realization that is. Because it means you don't have to chase rizq in desperation. You don't have to exhaust your soul trying to force outcomes that aren't meant for you. You work hard, yes, but you do it with serenity in your heart. You strive with excellence, but you do it without fear. Because you understand, you are moving through what was already written, not competing for something uncertain. This understanding softens your heart. You no longer panic when something slips away, because you know if it wasn't written for you, it couldn't have stayed, no matter how hard you tried to hold on to it. You no longer envy someone else's success, because you realize what's written for them doesn't reduce what's written for you. You no longer obsess over why a door didn't open, because you trust Allah only withholds when He knows the door leads somewhere your soul doesn't belong. And even more, you stop attaching your sense of worth to your wealth. You stop thinking, if I don't earn as much, I'm less valuable. You stop feeling shame when your income is small, or your business is struggling, or your job isn't as glamorous as others. Because you realize your risk is not a reflection of your status in this world. It is a reflection of Allah's unique plan for your soul. Some people are tested with excess. Some are tested with scarcity. Some are given early, some are given later. Some are given much, but it comes with arrogance. Others are given little, but it comes with gratitude. And the one who is grateful in little is richer than the one who is greedy in abundance. So don't measure your success by how much you have in your hands. Measure it by how much peace you carry in your heart. And how do you achieve that peace? By trusting that your risk is not something you earn alone. It's something you walk toward with faith, while Allah brings it toward you with wisdom. You put in the effort. Of course, Islam is not a passive faith, but you don't let anxiety eat away your sleep. You don't let greed harden your heart. You don't let impatience poison your gratitude, because you know, my job is to walk and Allah's job is to deliver. When you truly understand that your provision was written before you were even born, something powerful begins to shift inside you. You stop chasing money with desperation and you start seeking barakah, blessing in what you already have. You begin to realize that the key to peace is not having more, it's having enough with contentment in your heart. You begin to see that risk is not just about the number in your bank account, it's about how far that number takes you, how much peace it brings you, and whether it draws you closer to your Creator or further away. Some people earn thousands but feel empty, lost, and constantly anxious about losing it. Others earn far less but sleep peacefully, give quietly, and smile more sincerely because they know what I have is from Allah and what He gave me is enough for today. You see, when you live with the awareness that your risk is pre-written, you start measuring life differently. You stop saying, why don't I have what they have? And start asking, what am I doing with what I've been given? You stop resenting your path and start honoring it. You stop comparing your story and start living it fully, gratefully, and purposefully. This is not about laziness. It's not about sitting back and waiting for things to fall from the sky. No. Islam is a faith of effort, but it is also a faith of surrender. You are expected to try, to plan, to seek halal income, to work with ihsan, with excellence and sincerity. But when things don't go according to your plan, when a job falls through, when a business deal collapses, when your income takes a hit, you do not despair. Because you understand, I do not earn from people, I collect what was already written for me by Ar-Razak. And that's when your entire relationship with money, risk, and effort becomes healthier. You try, but you don't panic. You plan, but you don't break down when the plan shifts. You fall short sometimes, but you don't spiral into shame and hopelessness, because you know Allah is still in control and His plan for your provision never misses. And here's something else, something rarely talked about. Sometimes Allah delays your provision not because you're unworthy, but because He's preparing you to receive it in the right state. He knows that if He gives it to you now, it might lead to pride. It might distract you from your priorities. It might become the very thing that pulls you away from Him. So He withholds, not to hurt you, but to protect you. He holds it back just long enough for your character to catch up. He waits until your heart is grounded in gratitude. He allows you to taste struggle so that when the ease comes, you don't forget Him. That delay is not punishment, it is divine timing. It's mercy disguised as waiting, it's growth hidden within silence. So if you are in a place right now where you're working hard but not seeing results, if you're trying and failing, if you're doing your best and wondering why the risk hasn't come yet, take a moment to breathe. Remind yourself, what is written for me is already mine. I will get it when I am ready for it and when it is best for me. And in the meantime, I will keep striving with patience. I will keep worshipping with hope. And I will keep trusting the one who wrote my story long before I ever worried about it. My dear brothers and sisters, one of the most painful lies that shaitan whispers into our hearts, especially during times of financial stress, is this: if Allah really loved you, you wouldn't be struggling like this. If you were truly a good believer, things would be easier. Your hardship must be a sign that you're not worthy. And slowly that whisper becomes self-doubt. You begin to question your value. You begin to believe your difficulty is a form of rejection. You start thinking that maybe you're being punished or that Allah has turned away from you. But let me tell you something with full certainty. Tests are not a sign of rejection. They are often a sign of selection. In fact, the ones whom Allah loves the most, the prophets, the messengers, the most righteous people to walk this earth, they were also the most severely tested. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the most beloved of all creation, lost his parents, his grandfather, his beloved wife, his children. He was driven out of his homeland. He went hungry. He tied stones to his stomach to survive. He was mocked, boycotted, physically harmed, and yet Allah loved him more than anyone. So, if you're struggling today, not because of your laziness, not because of bad choices, but despite trying your best, don't you dare assume it's because you're less loved by Allah. Sometimes struggle is the way Allah polishes your soul. Sometimes hardship is the path to deep spiritual transformation. Sometimes being tested is the clearest sign that Allah wants to elevate you, not humiliate you. You might not see it yet, but your pain could be a bridge to your purpose. Your financial setback could be the reason you return to sincere dua. Your loss might be the thing that removes arrogance from your heart and replaces it with softness, humility, and tawakkul. Allah never tests without reason. He never gives you difficulty just to watch you suffer. He is not cruel, He is not careless. He is Al-Hakim, the most wise, and He knows exactly what your heart needs in order to grow, even if it's not what you wanted. You may think, but others aren't going through this. Why me? But everyone's test is different. Some are tested through wealth, some through health, some through relationships, some in public, others in private. But no one gets through this life without being tested. The difference is only in what form it takes and how we respond to it. And that's the part you can control. Your response. Do you let this test break your spirit? Or do you let it bend you into sujood? Do you drown in self-pity? Or do you turn your brokenness into a dua? Remember, Allah is not judging you for the presence of hardship in your life. He is watching how you respond to it. And every moment of patience, every act of trust, every time you hold your tongue instead of complaining is being recorded. Not a single tear goes unnoticed. Not a single sacrifice is forgotten. And when relief comes, and it will come, you look back and realize something amazing. The test was never a rejection. It was a preparation, a purification, a realignment, a gift that just didn't look like one at first. So if you're in the middle of a storm right now, please hear this. You are not being punished. You are being shaped. You are being drawn closer to your Lord. And the stronger your patience, the sweeter your reward, both in this life and in the next. Stay firm, stay hopeful, stay connected. Because what's waiting for you after the test is worth every moment you held on. It's natural in moments of hardship to feel overwhelmed, to think that you must have done something wrong for life to be so heavy. You start looking at your own deeds thinking, maybe I missed a prayer. Maybe I wasn't grateful enough. Maybe I'm being punished. But not every test is a result of sin. Some are simply part of the journey Allah designed for you to draw you closer to Him, to raise your level in Jannah, to purify your heart from attachments to this world. Remember, the Prophet Job, was a righteous man, a prophet of Allah, yet he was tested with extreme loss. His wealth, his family, his health. He lost everything except his faith. And through it all, he never said, "Why me?" He only said, "Oh Allah, I am afflicted and you are the most merciful." He didn't see the test as a punishment, he saw it as a chance to turn even more deeply toward Allah. And that is what distinguishes those who rise spiritually. Not that they have fewer tests, but that their reaction to the test becomes a form of worship. You see, anyone can say Alhamdulillah when life is easy. But to say it when your heart is breaking, to say it when your fridge is empty, to say it when your plans have collapsed and your income is dried up, that's not just gratitude, that's faith. That is the kind of faith that transforms you from someone who believes in Allah into someone who truly knows Him intimately, personally, profoundly. Because tests do something that comfort cannot. They strip away illusions. They expose what's hidden. They reveal what we truly depend on, and they show us that only Allah is constant while everything else is temporary. Sometimes it is in the fire of hardship that your soul becomes pure. Sometimes it is in the dark that your dua becomes deepest. Sometimes it is in the loss that your heart finally softens enough to truly feel the mercy of your Lord. So when you're being tested, don't say, "Why me?" Say instead, "What does Allah want me to learn through this? What weakness is He showing me so I can strengthen it? What beauty is He preparing me for? By allowing me to shed what's holding me back." Because Allah doesn't send pain without purpose. Sometimes He delays a blessing because the test is doing more for your heart than the blessing would have. Sometimes He puts you through hardship now to make your future easier in ways you can't yet imagine. And sometimes He tests you to elevate your rank in the hereafter, to place you in Jannah near those who suffered and were patient and relied upon Him fully. So your test, even if it looks like a financial burden, a job loss, a failed business, or debt, is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your return to the one who writes all stories. And when you meet Allah one day and you see the reward He gave you just for being patient, for crying in silence, for holding back complaints, for trusting Him while you were in the dark, you will wish you had been more patient. You will wish you had held on just a little longer. So do it now. Hold on. You may not see the wisdom today, but one day you'll look back and say, "That test was hard, but it was the moment my faith became real." Sometimes the hardest part of a test isn't the external struggle, it's the internal confusion. It's not the empty wallet or the closed doors that hurt the most, it's the feeling of being forgotten, the fear that your du'as aren't reaching Allah, the sense that your efforts are not being seen. You begin to wonder, why am I still in this situation when I've been making sincere dua? Why isn't anything changing even though I've been trying so hard? But here's something I want you to understand deeply. A delay in your relief is not a denial of your prayer. It might simply be that Allah is preparing you in the waiting, strengthening your reliance, shaping your humility, and refining your character so that when the blessing does come, you'll be ready to receive it with gratitude and not arrogance, with wisdom and not wastefulness. Sometimes Allah withholds what you want, not to hurt you, but to heal you first. Because if He gives too soon, you may hold on to that blessing with pride. But when He gives after the test, after the tears, the brokenness, the prayer, the patience, you hold it with sincerity, you protect it, you remember where it came from, you value it. And above all, you remember Allah more because of it. That's why scholars say there is more mercy in the waiting than in the giving. Because what's happening inside you during the test, the softening, the remembering, the growth is often more valuable than the result you were asking for. So don't confuse silence with abandonment. Just because Allah hasn't removed the difficulty yet doesn't mean He's not helping you. In fact, sometimes the test itself is the help. Sometimes the pressure you're under is protecting you from a bigger mistake. Sometimes the hardship is shielding you from something far worse. And sometimes the very struggle you're trying to escape from is doing more for your soul than comfort ever could. We often ask Allah to bring us closer to Him, and then when the tests come, we feel shocked. But sometimes the test is the answer to your dua. You asked for strength, so Allah gave you a storm to walk through. You asked for sincerity, so He removed the distractions you were depending on. You asked for a stronger connection, so He placed you in a situation where only He could help you. And even now, when you feel tired and unsure, you're closer than you think. Because Allah is closer to the broken-hearted than He is to those who forget Him in comfort. He is closer to the one who cries in sujood than the one who only remembers Him in ease. And He is closest to you not when you feel strong and confident, but when you're at your lowest, your weakest, your most desperate. That's when dua becomes real. That's when your reliance becomes sincere. That's when you drop the illusions of control and say, Ya Allah, I have no one but You. And that moment, when you are fully honest with your need, is often the beginning of your healing. So no, the test is not a sign that you failed. It's not proof that you're doing something wrong. It might just be the moment Allah is drawing you back to Him more deeply than ever before. If you're being tested, it's not the end of your story. It's the chapter where Allah rewrites it in a way that brings you closer to Him. Hold on. Keep praying, keep believing. Because the test you're in now could be the turning point of your life, not a punishment, but a pathway to a peace you've never felt before. My beloved brothers and sisters, let's talk about a mindset that many of us fall into, especially when we're in a financial struggle. We start to think, if I just do more, if I just work harder, if I stay up all night, if I push every possible door, and suddenly our striving begins to cross into desperation. Not healthy effort, but anxious, fearful grasping. We forget who the source really is. We forget to pause. We forget to trust. And in that desperation, we begin to compromise, sometimes morally, sometimes spiritually. We may accept money from questionable sources. We may lie, manipulate, or cut corners. We might neglect our salah for the sake of getting ahead. We tell ourselves, I'll fix it later. Right now, I just need to survive. But here's the truth. Nothing you gain through desperation is worth more than what you lose through disobedience. You might earn a few extra dollars by skipping your values. You might land a deal by hiding the truth. You might impress someone with a false version of yourself. But if it comes at the cost of your sincerity, then you haven't gained anything. Because real risk is not just about how much enters your hands, it's about how much reaches your soul without corrupting it. Allah does not bless wealth earned through deception. He does not place barakah in earnings gained by stepping outside the bounds of honesty. And He does not require you to disobey Him to survive. Think about that. Do you really believe Allah needs you to lie to be provided for? Do you really think the only way you'll eat tomorrow is by earning haram today? No. Allah is more merciful than that, more generous than that, more just than that. And when you choose sincerity, even if it slows your worldly progress, you are actually investing in something far greater. Barakah. Barakah is what makes a little stretch far. Barakah is what brings peace with provision. Barakah is what allows your wealth to nourish your family, your time to stretch, your heart to feel full, even when your wallet isn't. And barakah only comes with sincerity. The Prophet, peace be upon him, taught us that wealth doesn't decrease through charity, and yet we still hesitate to give because we're afraid of losing. But charity given sincerely from a place of trust brings rizq. It doesn't remove it. You can give one coin for the sake of Allah and find that He returns it to you tenfold, not always in money, but in opportunities, peace, health, and solutions that you didn't even pray for. You see, desperation says, there's not enough, I need to fight, push, and take. But sincerity says there is always enough as long as I turn to the giver. Desperation makes you think the world controls your risk. Sincerity reminds you that only Allah does. So yes, do your best. Show up, apply, pitch, sell, learn, grow. But do it with honesty, with dignity, with balance, with intention, not fear. Because Allah does not bless panic. He blesses patience. He blesses clean effort. He blesses those who seek provision with open hands and a trusting heart, not clenched fists and anxiety. You may feel like you're not moving fast enough. You may feel like others are surpassing you. But what matters in the sight of Allah is not who reaches success first, it's who reaches it without sacrificing their soul to get there. So choose sincerity. Even when it's slower, even when it's quieter, even when no one else sees it. Because Allah sees it and He is the one who controls the outcome. Sometimes the world teaches us that we must hustle at all costs, that success comes only to the loudest, the fastest, and the most aggressive. And when you're struggling to make ends meet, you might feel pushed into that mindset, like if you don't shout for attention, no one will hear you. If you don't fight for every opportunity, you'll be left behind. But Islam teaches something different. It teaches that risk is not taken forcefully, it is received humbly. It teaches that the door to provision is not always opened by pushing harder, but by turning more sincerely to Allah. And this is where desperation becomes dangerous, because when your goal becomes getting ahead at any cost, you start to forget why you were working in the first place. You begin with a pure intention to earn halal, to support your family, to live with dignity. But somewhere along the way, you may lose your principles in the pursuit. You may compromise your prayers. You may skip zakat, thinking your savings are too fragile. You may start working in shady industries or lying in business deals. You may become someone you don't recognize all because you told yourself, I have no other choice. But you do. You always have a choice to trust Allah. Allah is not just Ar-Razzaq, the provider. He is also Al-Latif, the subtle, and Ar-Rahman, the most merciful. He knows when you're struggling. He sees when you're doing your best. He watches the moment when you hold back from haram, even when it's easier, even when it pays more. And in return, He promises you something this world cannot give. Barakah, honor, Jannah. You may not see the reward today. You may not even see it next month. But eventually you will look back and realize, I didn't lose by choosing sincerity. I gained everything that mattered. And never forget, those who earn through clean, halal means, even if their income is small, are beloved to Allah. The Prophet, peace be upon him, once said, the honest and trustworthy merchant will be with the prophets, the truthful, and the martyrs. Why? Because it's not easy to be sincere when the world tempts you to cheat. It's not easy to hold on to your values when desperation knocks on your door. But when you do, you are rewarded in a way far greater than any paycheck. So, yes, the halal path might be longer. The honest path might be slower. The sincere path might not impress the world. But it pleases the one who holds the world in his hands. And that's all that matters. So if you're tired, keep going but with dignity. If you're struggling, keep working but without sin. If you're in need, keep asking but only from the one who never tires of giving. Because what comes through desperation may bring regret, but what comes through sincerity brings peace both in your hands and in your heart. My beloved brothers and sisters, there is a beautiful and deeply comforting statement from our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that every single one of us should hold close, especially in times of fear and uncertainty. He said, no soul will die until it has received its full share of provision. Subhanallah. What does that mean? It means that your rizq, your sustenance is not just written, but guaranteed. It will reach you fully, completely, not a morsel less, not a moment too soon, not a second too late. It means that nothing and no one can take what was meant for you. No competitor, no employer, no economy, no delay, no decision, nothing can block what Allah has already destined to be yours. You will not die before receiving what was decreed for you. This truth should remove so much fear from your heart. You don't have to live in constant panic. You don't have to fear that you'll miss out. You don't have to break your back chasing things that aren't even written for you. All you need to do is what Islam always teaches us. Tie your camel and trust in Allah. Work, try, show up, but do it with peace, not pressure. Because Allah has already written what you will have and when. Your job is not to create rizq out of thin air. Your job is to seek it in a halal way, with a clean heart and a patient soul, and trust that it will reach you when the time is right. Let me give you a simple example. Think of the rain. You can't make it fall. You don't control the clouds, but you can prepare your land, plant your seeds, and trust that when the rain is meant to come, it will. The same is true for rizq. You don't control when it arrives, but you can prepare yourself. You can plant effort, nourish it with dua, protect it with tawakkul, and then wait for the mercy of Ar-Razzaq to descend. You see, what often makes people feel anxious about provision isn't just financial pressure, it's the false belief that they are in full control. And when things don't go as planned, they feel like they've failed. But in reality, the test is not in controlling the result. The test is in trusting the one who controls it. That's why we are taught, run after your sustenance like you believe it's written and not like you believe it's slipping away. Because the soul that believes I must rush or I will lose is the soul that burns itself out. But the soul that believes I must try and trust is the soul that remains calm even in the middle of chaos. So the next time you feel like things are taking too long, the next time you feel like your efforts aren't enough, the next time you worry that you won't have what you need, remember, your rizq is chasing you more surely than you are chasing it. And Allah will not take you from this world not one moment sooner until every last bit of it reaches your hands. So don't rush, don't despair, don't take haram shortcuts. And most importantly, don't ever believe the lie that you've been forgotten. You haven't. Your rizq is written. Your soul is still breathing. And the sustainer of the heavens and the earth has never missed a single one of his promises. This hadith that no soul will die until it has received every drop of its provision is not just a reminder. It is a life-changing truth. If you truly understand it, it will change how you walk through every storm. Because it means that your provision is not running away from you. You're not in competition with the world. You're not racing against time or people or systems. You're simply on a path already written for you by the one who created your soul. And along that path, Allah places your rizq exactly where you need it and when you need it. Sometimes that provision comes as money. Sometimes it comes as peace. Sometimes it comes as a delay that saves you from something worse. But here's where we often fall. We confuse the delay with deprivation. We say, I've been waiting so long, why hasn't it arrived? I'm working so hard, why am I still in the same place? But what if Allah is holding it back because He loves you? What if He's delaying it because He knows that right now, that wealth or that job or that lifestyle would harm your soul more than help it? Allah sees the whole picture, the past, the future, the consequences, the distractions you can't see, the arrogance you don't feel growing in your heart. So when He delays your rizq, it's not because He's forgotten you. It's because He's refining you. He's teaching you patience. He's building your resilience. He's deepening your sincerity. And when you finally receive what's written for you, you'll handle it better. You'll appreciate it more. You'll know where it came from. That's not deprivation, that's divine strategy. Because Allah doesn't just give based on what you ask for. He gives based on what is good for you in this life and the next. And here's something even more beautiful. Sometimes you don't even live long enough to spend all your provision, but Allah rewards you as if you had. Imagine that. You die while struggling to earn halal, while doing your best to avoid haram, while remaining honest in your dealings, while making dua in the night. And before your final breath, maybe you didn't see the wealth or the house or the breakthrough, but in the unseen realm, the angels are recording every moment you restrained yourself from sin out of fear of Allah. Every time you trusted Him instead of chasing shortcuts. And when you meet your Lord, you are rewarded not just for what you received, but for what you were patient for. That's risk too. That's a provision greater than gold. So don't be afraid of what you haven't received yet. Be afraid of losing your trust in the one who promises to send it. Work, but do it with peace. Strive, but do it with taqwa. Wait, but wait with dignity. Because no matter what happens, your rizq cannot die before you do. And even if the world turns its back on you, the one who wrote your sustenance before you took your first breath will never forget your name. My beloved brothers and sisters, when we hear the word rizq provision, most of us immediately think of money. We think of salaries, savings, property, profits and possessions. But in reality, provision from Allah is so much more than wealth. Rizq includes everything that sustains you, comforts you and strengthens your soul. And not all of it comes in your hands. Some of it enters through your heart. Let me ask you, have you ever felt peace after a long period of pain? That's rizq. Have you ever had someone call you just when you needed encouragement? That's rizq. Have you ever been saved from something you didn't even know would harm you? That's rizq. Have you ever walked through something heavy and Allah gave you patience you didn't know you had? That's rizq. Your family, that's rizq. Your health, that's rizq. A kind word, rizq. The ability to cry in sujood, rizq. Time, safety, love, guidance. A heart that still turns to Allah even when you've sinned. All of this is provision. And this is where many people go wrong. They measure Allah's favor only by their bank balance. They assume that if wealth increases, Allah is pleased, and if it decreases, He is distant. But that's not how Allah works. Some of the most beloved people to Allah lived simple lives with very little material wealth, yet they were rich in barakah, in sabr, in iman, in dua. So never limit the meaning of provision to income. Because you could earn millions and still feel empty. And you could have little yet feel rich in your heart, grateful, content, full of light. That feeling of qana'ah, contentment, is one of the greatest forms of rizq. And it doesn't come from money. It comes from Allah. And here's something powerful to remember. Money is not the goal, it is a tool. It's not wrong to seek it. Islam encourages us to earn, to be productive, to support others, and to live with dignity. But money is not the highest form of success. True success is when your provision brings you closer to Allah, not further away. If your income is increasing, but your salah is decreasing, that's not rizq, that's a distraction. If your career is growing, but your heart is becoming harder, that's not barakah, that's a test. If your wealth rises, but your generosity falls, then you've missed the point entirely. Because real rizq does not just benefit your lifestyle, it benefits your soul. So the next time you feel like you're falling behind, the next time you see someone else doing better financially, remind yourself, they may have more in their hand, but Allah may have given you more in your heart. They may have bigger homes, but Allah may have placed more barakah in your sleep. They may drive faster, but you may walk lighter with a heart full of peace and hope. So shift your definition. Provision isn't always what increases in quantity, sometimes it's what increases in quality, in meaning, in serenity, in impact. Don't just chase the rizq that fills your bank account. Chase the risk that fills your soul. My dear brothers and sisters, as we come to the end of this journey, I want to leave you with a secret one that Allah Himself taught us. A timeless promise found in the Quran. If you are grateful, I will surely increase you. Subhanallah. We chase provision in so many ways, with effort, with strategy, with ambition, and all of that is part of our religion. But we often forget the simplest, most powerful key to increase: gratitude. Gratitude is not just words. It's not just saying Alhamdulillah out loud and then complaining in your heart. It's a posture of the soul. It's choosing to see what you have rather than obsessing over what you don't. It's acknowledging that even in hardship, there are blessings seen and unseen that continue to surround you. You woke up today, that's a risk. You were able to move, breathe, think and pray, that's risk. You've been through difficulty, but you're still here, still turning to Allah, still holding on. That is incredible risk. And the more you thank Allah for what He has already given, the more He gives you from places you could never imagine. Gratitude softens your heart. Gratitude makes your soul wealthy even if your pockets are not. Gratitude protects your blessings from becoming distractions. Gratitude turns even small provisions into oceans of barakah. And here's something beautiful.